Hi, my name's Julie Leoni and thank you for joining me on the first of 4 video episodes. Thank you to Psychologies magazine for bringing together this course called Finding Your Inner Guide, Using Your Emotional Intelligence to Cure Bad Moods and to Live Your Best Life. So welcome. It's raining outside, but here we are. It's nice and warm, so I hope it's okay where you are. And this is the first week of this journey into emotional intelligence. So just to tell you a bit about me, I'm a mum first and foremost, but I'm also a life coach and a teacher. I've got 25 years worth of experience in meditation. I went to India in my 20s. I teach yoga. I work with groups on well-being. I work with individuals, young people, and mainly women on coaching and well-being and moving people towards the life that they want. And obviously part of that is emotional intelligence. And it's been very much my journey, probably starting in my early 20s after the death of somebody close to me, and continues to this day. So I'm not sitting here as somebody who never uses emotion inappropriately. Anyone that knows me knows that I sometimes do. And this isn't about being perfect. It's just becoming a bit more literate and making friends with our emotions so that we are living harmoniously with ourselves and the world around us. So where did this idea of emotional intelligence come from? Well, the first time I came across it was in the works of Daniel Goleman. He's written lots of books about emotional intelligence, and basically there's 4 aspects. So the first aspect is becoming aware of my own emotions, self-emotion, and then once I'm aware of that, I can think about how to express it. So I might feel myself getting hot, getting tense, getting irritated, and then I might notice that that's anger. And then because I've noticed it, I've got a choice about whether I'm going to shout or whether I'm going to actually just rein it in and kind of experience the anger in a different way. Whereas if I'm unaware, then I'm shouting at somebody before I even know whether that's a good thing to be doing. So I become aware. When I become aware, then I can make choices about how I express that emotion. Then the next bit to it is becoming aware of other people. So being able to read their body signs and symptoms. So obviously for some of us that's easier than others, but it's becoming aware of, is somebody tense? Is somebody relaxed and open? And what does that mean? What they're communicating to you? So that then you can respond to them. So if I'm angry with someone who I already see as tense, I might decide, okay, I'm going to park my anger until they're more relaxed, and then I'm going to just have that discussion about, actually, please don't do that because you've crossed the boundary. So being aware of what I feel doesn't mean that I'm ignoring what I feel. It just means that I can choose how to respond, and I can choose when, because I've read you and I've read what I think is going on with you, and so we're avoiding conflict. So that's kind of in a nutshell what Daniel Goleman said, those 4 aspects. And these 4 weeks, we're going to start off with, in this session, looking at what we've inherited. So we're used to thinking, oh, he's just like his dad, or she looks just like her mum. But maybe we're not so aware of this idea that we inherit emotional patterns too. So that's where week 1 is going to go. So let's just start with the really hard stuff. So not everybody has the childhood that they deserved. So we know that there's people who will have lived with domestic abuse, child abuse, and those events are traumatic and create scars. Obviously, Psychologies magazine, you'll have seen the articles about the UKCP psychotherapy. There's also the BACP psychotherapy. I've done lots of therapy. It's really helped heal some scars. I don't think you ever get over difficult experiences, but it certainly frees up some of that trapped emotional energy so that you can move forward. So if you've experienced a big trauma in your childhood, and it may not always be, there are obviously examples of kind of malicious things, but if it was a bereavement that you didn't get to express, if there was a huge change in family circumstances, so suddenly the family was poorer than it had been, which means that everybody's working more and there's much less time for the children, then those sorts of things can have an emotional impact. So if you feel like things that have happened in your past are holding you back from living your best life, then reach out for support. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of courage that actually I'm ready to go into the dark cave. And one therapist explained it to me, we don't go into the dark cave and stay in there, we go into the dark cave together to find something, and we bring it out into the light. We work with that until we've kind of understood it and the emotions are released from it, and only then do we go back into the cave to get other bits. So if this is you, go and get some support, because what this course will do, it will give you some tools, but that deeper stuff really needs the ongoing relationship that you get in therapy or in coaching. So everyone, no matter how idyllic their childhood, has inherited some sort of emotional scripting. And by that, I mean that family systems have patterns of how emotions are expressed and which emotions are expressed. So I was working with a client the other day who, in their family, they didn't do fear. They were told to man up, get on with it, toughen up. There was no vocabulary for fear. You weren't allowed to be scared. So when the child was scared, they were kind of teased or ridiculed and kind of nudged to get out of it or made to laugh. So none of it was ill-intentioned by the people doing that, but it was just the message that that person received was, don't feel fear. So what happens with that? We all of these emotions, fear, anger, sadness, they're evolved responses that are really useful to us, and we'll talk a bit more about that next week. But fear's there to keep us away from things that are going to harm us. So it's there whether we can express it or not, and if we can't express it, then we don't really know what to do with it. So sometimes that shows up as, when other people are scared, we don't like it, we recoil from it, or we maybe judge them or tease them as we were judged and teased. So often how we respond to other people's emotions is quite a good indicator of something going on for us. If we don't like joy and excitement, then maybe that's because actually we're not so good and aware of joy and excitement for ourselves, so we can start to be curious about that. And it's not always just the negative emotions that are forbidden. So joy is a good example, where some families don't do joy. They're told, you know, if the child's excited, they might be told to shh, quieten down, don't make a fuss, don't show off. So celebration of praise or being proud may be something that some people just don't have experience of, they don't have that vocabulary of. So that's something then, if you don't know about that, how can you notice when I'm proud or you're proud? So I want you to just take some time and think about, in your family, were there emotions that were expressed more and some expressions, emotion expressions which were forbidden? And then the next step is to think about, very often emotions get attributed to certain people within the family. So for example, it's very often the males in the family who it's okay for them to be angry, and the females in the family it's okay for them to be sad and scared, but they don't switch over. So then boy children grow up not knowing how to be sad and scared, and girl children grow up not knowing how to be angry, for example. So I know that it wasn't until my mid to late 20s that I finally recognised anger, because I used to just get upset. I used to cry, and then I'd feel really frustrated. Why am I crying? Because actually I'm angry. And so becoming more aware of actually anger and learning, I feel angry because often something in the environment, and then asking for that to be different, it took time. So reflect on, what are your family relationship scripts, and what have you inherited? Then once you've done that, have a look at that list of emotions that you've got on the first week's worksheet. And there's going to be a number of stages to go through here. So the first one is literally just read it and just, are there any words there that you don't understand, that you've never come across before? In which case, look them up, Google them, and take time to do that, because often if we don't have a word for an emotion, we can't spot it. So I love the example of, in our culture, we have one word for snow, and in Inuit, so the Eskimo culture, they've got 7 words for snow. So we just see snow, and we might say it's slushy or it's icy, but they see 7 different types of snow. So if we don't have words for things, we can't express it. So which are the words there that you don't recognise? Look them up. Once you've got that, then grab a highlighter pen or a pencil and circle all the words that you use a lot about emotions. So the ones that you would use about yourself, or that you've noticed in somebody else. And you might want to add words to that list. So obviously there's lots of ruder ways of saying, oh, I'm really angry, and that's fine. Add them to your list because they're part of your emotional vocabulary. And just be curious, which ones can you express, which ones don't you express so much? And then the next stage is to think, okay, which the words on here that I recognise and know that I feel, but I don't always express them. I don't always use that vocabulary. So just again, mark them in a slightly different colour, or if you did a circle last time, put a square this time. So these are words that I do feel, but oh, I never say it. Because that's part of your awareness and communication to other people about how I'm feeling. If I don't have a word, I can't tell you. And then because this is coaching and we want to think about living our better life, then let's start to go back to that list another time with maybe an underline or a triangle or a different colour pen. And we're looking for words that you think, oh, I'd like to feel more of that in my life. There might be bliss or excitement that you think, oh, I'm not aware of that in my life. I don't notice it. I don't feel it. So again, go through and highlight somehow differently the words that you would like to have more of, you'd like to experience more of in your life. Now, once you've done that, you've got all your different lists now. There's the words that you had no idea about, hadn't noticed that, so be curious about that. Then there's the words that you use all the time and the words that you know but you don't really use. And you might want to reflect on how they match with what you previously thought about your family background. Then we've got this new list of words that we want to integrate. So what are we going to do? So your homework in between sessions, as well as all the other tasks, is to rewatch either a film or an episode of a soap opera. Films are good because they have a variety of emotions in. And watch something that you've watched before, because then you're not hooked into the plot. But as you're watching it, maybe focus on a character that you identify with and or someone that really repels you, and just start to play spot the emotion. Name the emotion that they're feeling, and it's okay to have your list with you there, and you could do it as a family or with a friend to literally play, oh, anger, sadness, fear, lust, envy, to name them. Because what that's doing is, first of all, getting you used to using that language, but it's also getting you used to recognising those emotions in others. And then often it's easier for us to spot those emotions in ourselves. So that's our first session. I invite you to, throughout this course, just keep an emotional diary of what comes up for you. Sometimes during this process, you might start having dreams where you feel emotions in the dreams which you don't feel in waking life. So having a pen and paper next to bed just to jot those down, because whether the dream is real or not, the emotions will be real. And to start to get curious about, where am I feeling this emotion in my body? I feel something, I don't know if I have a word for it, and keep that list with you. So that's stage one of Goleman's becoming self-aware. And then start to express it without necessarily expecting anything to be different. So maybe just saying, I feel a bit timid, or I feel a bit hopeless. And just be curious how that feels for you, how that makes people respond to you, and practicing with different types of people. So obviously going back to your birth family, if nothing's changed in your birth family, those patterns will still be there. So maybe trying it with colleagues or new friends who've met you in a different situation. So next week, we're going to move into kind of finding out more about our emotions in our body, which is where they come from. And throughout this process, we're working with the premise that emotions are there to be our friend, to guide us. So this week's really been about expressing it, finding the language from it, becoming aware of where we've come from, our emotional history, so that we can start to move forward and integrate some new emotions for ourselves. So it's been a pleasure to be here. If you want to know more, then I've got my website, julieleoni.com, and there's books on there. There's one about domestic abuse and the emotional impact on there, Into the Woods. There's another one called Love Being Me, which is all about how to get more in tune with how you feel. And then the 6 Steps to Relationship Recovery has got a lot of the tools and techniques that I'll be talking about during this course. So hop over to julieleoni.com and I'll see you next week.